Idly-ho, Drinkerinos. We're back with another episode of the Idaho Booze Podcast with me, Steve Kuntz. We take a tiny little detour today and hop on the wagon with Michelle Houston. Michelle owns To Be Honest Beverage Company, a hot new brand responsible for Focus, an alcohol-free gin that not only tastes like your favorite gin, but has some fun ingredients that gives you a little bit of that feeling when you take a sip or two. Michelle is also on the forefront of a sober, curious lifestyle and shares her story on controlling intake, balancing your mental health and anxiety without booze, I guess, and what it's like to own and run a purpose-driven brand. Then we'll get into the Boise Beer Buddies community calendar. It's a fun-filled, zero-proof show today on the Idaho Booze Podcast. It's time for the Warren Reserve Cocktail of the Week. This week, in the spirit, get it, of the show, I will be sharing a pretty close to mocktail recipe with you that I enjoy myself. I call it the really old-fashioned, really emphasis on the really. You will need ginger beer, you will need cocktail cherries, Warren Reserve burnt sugar syrup, Warren Reserve orange, and aromatic bitters, and one giant ball of ice. So get your highball glass out and fill it with that giant ball of ice. Add 1 ounce burnt sugar syrup, 2 dashes of aromatic bitters, 4 dashes of orange bitters, and top it all off with that ginger beer. Stir that thing up until everything is mixed in. Add your cherry and orange peel garnish and enjoy. It's the really old-fashioned, and if you want to do it completely non-alcohol, which, you know, fine, go ahead. The bitters, honestly, it's not that much alcohol. But if you want to go non-alcohol, go ahead and omit the bitters. Add the zest of half an orange. That will give you that kind of bitter orange taste you're looking for, along with a really small dash of allspice, ginger powder, and maybe some star anise, if you're nasty. It's a really old-fashioned, and you can get these ingredients now from WarrenReserve.com, or better yet, give them as a gift in the Idaho Booze Holiday Bundle. Use my promo code BLACK25 and get 20% off the holiday boxes at WarrenReserve.com. There's a bunch to choose from. Check them out. We have pictures and stuff all over the show notes. Support the show and give the gift of amazing cocktails this holiday season with an Idaho Booze Holiday Bundle from Warren Reserve. Don't forget to use the code BLACK25 for 20% off at WarrenReserve.com today. The really old-fashioned, our Warren Reserve Cocktail of the Week. This show brought to you by Warren Reserve and WarrenReserve.com. It's here. Holiday season has arrived and Warren Reserve has an amazing deal for you. It's the Idaho Booze Holiday Bundle. Go to WarrenReserve.com and check out an array of authentic handmade bitters and cocktail syrups arranged in beautiful black boxes that make the perfect gift for friends, family, co-workers, postal workers, garbage pickup crews, weird uncles, crazy aunts, and anybody else you need to shop for this holiday season. What's that? You want more? How about 20% off these gorgeous holiday bundles using my promo code BLACK25? Idaho Booze Holiday Bundles available exclusively at WarrenReserve.com. Get 20% off with my promo code BLACK25 today and start crossing some names off that holiday gift list at WarrenReserve.com. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Kuntz, and we are having a zero-proof show today. And that means we're talking, an awesome conversation everybody wants to have. That's right, we're talking about getting on the wagon, being sober curious, maybe limiting consumption. Honestly, the biggest thing here is if you feel trapped by booze. And this is a big conversation for someone way smarter than me. And obviously, I don't feel that way. But, you know, I've felt that way in the past where I was in a cycle and where I was maybe imbibing too much. And what you have to do is you just have to figure out a way to slow it down or stop it if you feel like you have a problem. Like, honestly, I feel like if you're listening to this podcast, you probably don't have a problem because this is a podcast about the fun times, about artisans, about creativity, about really good beer, wine, and booze. It's not about cranking down 15 Keystone Lights, you know, over the weekend or over a night or whatever. We're talking about, you know, having a good time, making good cocktails, enjoying good wine, having fun with friends. That's kind of the vibe here. And it's on purpose because that's how I am. That's how I feel. And that's how, I feel like most of my friends feel about alcohol and their relationship with alcohol. Now, that's not everyone. Obviously, enjoying alcohol and alcoholism are two different things. And I'm not really going to talk about alcoholism too much. We all know what it is. Like, you know the signs, you know what it looks like. Michelle's story is really probably similar to a lot of people out there. I know I heard versions of myself in there when she was talking about it, and she talks about like stopping the cycle. She talks about how it's fun to drink, but maybe like sometimes you go over like stuff I've been talking about. And she puts it in a way that's really, really accessible and really kind of fun and easy to understand without being preachy, without being weird, without making, without killing the vibe. So I really hope that you take away from this conversation, not the sudden urge to stop drinking. Obviously, my sponsor is a bitters company. We make cocktails. We love cocktails. We like beer. We like wine. We like all these things. It's more about being honest with yourself about your consumption. And that's hard to do. If you don't think you have a problem, you probably don't. Honestly, if you think you do, you might. But if you don't think you do, or if you don't have a problem, then, journey on, I say. A lot of people like to do like Sober October or Sober January. And that's really good. That's a great way to kind of slow things down and reset. And that's what me and my friend group have done recently. Basically, August and September, we slowed down and stopped. And I think it was great for us. We still had a good time hanging out and everything. Not as good a time, obviously. But, it was good for us. We all lost a little weight. Our skin got a little bit cleared up. And it was just like a nice way to sort of end the summer. But that's not what we're here for. We're not here to tell you what to do. You're all adults. You can do your own thing. Personally, I will be giving out bottles of Michelle's NA Gin to my friends that have admitted to problem drinking, and I will wish them well because her Focus Gin sounds awesome. I'm really excited for you guys to hear all about it. I'm excited to give it out as gifts. So a few people will be getting that Focus gift. Everybody else, $2 chuck. Sorry, in this economy, I can't afford, well, I know it's more like $4 chuck now, but I can't afford to go any more than that. So coming up, Michelle Houston, she's an amazing CEO and entrepreneur. She shares her story about part-time sobriety, what her company's main focus is, and how she turned her quest for better mental health and into a full-fledged purpose-driven company. That's hard to say. I don't know why I wrote that. I had a great time talking to Michelle, and I think you will really enjoy this chat, and it's coming up next. Pardon our dust. Treasure Valley Chevron at Highway 55 and Beacon Light is expanding to offer you more on-the-go goodies, beer, wine, cider, coffee, soda, everything you need for all of your adventures, big and small. Treasure Valley Chevron already has the best assortment of chips, dips, sandwiches, jerky, hot sauce, tallows, and more. And now we're able to offer you, that's right, more ready-to-go meals, more coffee, more soda, more beer, more wine, more ready-to-drink cocktails, just more. Get to Treasure Valley Chevron today and see what you have been missing. Highway 55 in Beacon Light or I-84 and Gowan Road. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Kuntz, here with Michelle Houston. Michelle, founder of To Be Honest Beverage Company, author of the Sober Curious Lifestyle Guide, and an all-around expert on choosing to cut down or cut out alcohol. Michelle, how are we doing today?
Fabulous, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We're going to start with an easy question, just something we're going to break the ice a little bit here, just to get to know each other a little bit. What caused you to want to stop or slow down your drinking? And what were some of the signs that you might have ignored before you actually did come around to slowing down or stopping?
So I would say, just like anyone else, I've had seasons. I think that our relationship with alcohol evolves over time, depending on obviously what's going on in our lives. And I have a little bit of a complex relationship and past with alcohol. I started drinking from a slightly younger age, around the age of 14. We lived in a very small town. And at the time, alcohol consumption and parties was like the go-to. So hanging out, having a drink, playing games, bonfires, whatever that looked like. And over the course of time, I've definitely spent times like pulling back from alcohol. I spent a bit of time in health and fitness, teaching, coaching. And so drinking didn't really fit that lifestyle of healthy foods, waking up early, lots of fitness. And what evolved into about 3.5 years ago was kind of when I put a pause on things. At the time, I was going through some anxiety, some mental health struggles, and really a sense of like lethargy, lack of motivation, and this feeling that even though I felt like I was checking the boxes and doing the right things, that it just like things weren't feeling great. And it was in a rock bottom. I don't consider myself sober, which would be, having an alcohol use disorder or some sort of addiction, and then choosing to stop and going through the steps or the programming to make that happen. But it was just kind of like, I'm going to stop drinking for a while. I'm going to put a pause on it. I loved cocktails. I would drink wine at home. And it just felt like the alcohol consumption was just kind of leading me down a path that I didn't want at the time. And so that kind of week became a month, became a year. And just the further I got away from alcohol, it became more of an overarching lifestyle choice. And kind of that's how things evolve. It was never like, I'm going to stop drinking forever. I need to stop. This is a problem. It was just sort of like, well, I'm checking all the boxes in a lot of other places, but I'm still struggling. Like I was having anxiety attacks and still kind of struggling in the days to follow drinking. So I wouldn't say alcohol was the cause or the main issue because I was going through therapy at the time and managing a lot of other stuff. But it was kind of like an exacerbating quality of my life that I knew that I had control over. And so when I chose to stop, it was for that reason and just kind of seeing what would happen as a result.
So you bring up a couple of interesting things there. For one, the last thing you said there was you had something that you could control, which is a really important, I think, difference between people who do have a drinking problem and those that maybe don't. And that's the biggest thing for me is like, do you feel like you have control over that? And can you stop? Is it possible? Like, is it something that is going to be like around your neck the whole time, or something that's going to kind of carry you rather than you carrying it? And then another thing you said is that you were having some anxiety issues and stuff like that. And I find like when I've had some of those issues like anxiety and stuff like that, I've or maybe other people are like this, I don't reach for alcohol. Like if I'm feeling down or if I'm having like a bad time in life or whatever, I don't reach for alcohol. Like I like alcohol for good times. I like to go out and have fun and be social with it. I don't like it for when I feel like it actually makes me feel worse if I already feel bad. What do you think about that? And how does that kind of lend to the anxiety part of it as well?
Everyone experiences alcohol so differently. So part of, the reasoning behind our brand, which we'll, I'm sure, get a little bit more into because it has a lot to do. We may or may not.
We'll see how it goes.
It's just my story. It's my story. It's what like motivated the product and the brand as a whole. So our goal and mission ultimately is to ensure that each individual has a sense of intention and mindfulness with consumption. And there are people who don't drink most of the time, but they can go out and they have a glass of wine, or they have a glass of whiskey, or they have a cocktail, or they have a beer with a friend. And it's doesn't permeate into anything else. The way that it makes them feel isn't necessarily negative. There aren't really any quote unquote repercussions outside of maybe the norm. And so every single person is so different. There's a lot of, my husband and partner comes from the alcohol production and manufacturing world. So there's a lot of heritage and culture and experience that centers around alcohol. But again, everybody's engagement with it is so different. So the fact that you can go out and enjoy drinks socially, but not have it be a larger issue or not have it domino into other things is your experience. And lots of our customers and lots of our community still consume alcohol, but just want additional alternative options. So for me, I never say like, I'm never drinking again because I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what that looks like. And there is something so enjoyable about drinking. It's the reason it's such a huge industry. It's the reason that you do it all over the world. It's centered on our celebrations and our milestones and networking and connection and all of these things. So I think everybody's so different. For me and for a lot of folks, there's a sense of what I consider like coping, numbing, and avoiding. And that can be in lots of different formats. Obviously, you have your drugs and intoxicating substances, you have alcohol, you have social media, television, news, reading books, sometimes even audiobooks and things like that. And so there are ways that people choose avoidance tactics. And for me and my story, that's where I knew that I was choosing alcohol more as a coping mechanism and tool to avoid the deeper level, like rooted emotions and psychological things that I was experiencing. So people can go out and they can have a good time and they can be just fine engaging with alcohol, but that's just not everybody's story. And so each of us has to intentionally choose and mindfully opt into or out of that drinking experience. And that's kind of one of our biggest goals. For a lot of people, they might not have your relationship with alcohol that is on the healthy side. It could be that it's just a habit. It's just something that I've always done. It's maybe led to health issues for them, or they feel like they need to because there's some sort of pressure and maybe they don't really want to, or they don't like the after effects, but they are going to. Or a lot of people, again, coping, numbing, avoiding, are using it as a tool to alleviate stress, to deal with circumstances in their lives, to forget and get away from their true experience or circumstance or whatever's kind of facing them. And it's just, I think it's all different stories, you know?
And like a therapist would say, you're doing it as an avoidance, right? You're doing it to avoid dealing with the deeper, darker, whatever stuff that's going on underneath. Yeah, that's I think that's a key part of when you're talking about like drinking and anxiety and drinking and sort of that kind of the dark path that you're talking about, as you know. But I mean, obviously everybody's going to drink at some point or another to avoid. I mean, whether it's used as a social lubricant or it's used as a way to maybe unwind after a long day or a long week or whatever it is. I mean, it's always going to be used something like that. So there has to be some form of that type of consumption that is healthy and honest, as long as you're healthy and honest with yourself, right?
Yeah. And it's, I think, challenging for people to have those conversations, especially if alcohol has just been so much a part of your life. Like for me, my family have been big alcohol consumers. So every holiday, every dinner we have, every experience, whether that's just hanging out in the afternoon or mimosas at breakfast or brunch, when it's so integrated into your life, you don't really stop and pause to think, do I want this type of consumption? And for a lot of folks, it is, I mean, it's technically a depressant. There is an experience that comes from the actual substance that is alcohol. And so just like we would coffee, we drink it for a reason. Yes, flavor plays a part in that, but if we can have that same flavor without the intoxicant of the substance that you're consuming, which affects your consciousness, which affects your state of mind in some way, you know, you're using it for a goal. And it's okay. Like I feel like we all have vices, and part of, you know, my goal as an individual and as a mission from our brand is not to judge or shame. And I think that's a big part of this larger conversation in terms of consumption. It's funny because it goes both ways. So a lot of people who are starting to transition away from alcohol experience some type of pressure, questioning, or judgment, because there's some type of criticism that usually takes place in terms of why they're not drinking. Oh, you must have had a problem, or you know,
totally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's almost worse than having the drinking problem, is when you stop and all of your friends and relatives and stuff are like, you know, they talk behind your back, or they maybe even right to your face. They're like, why aren't you having a beer? Like, what's the problem? And they're like, I don't really want to talk about it. Or like, I have some sort of disorder. I mean, I think we're finding more and more of that with people that have gone through this sort of craft beer era and sort of the availability of more booze and more wine and more locally sourced stuff, where people are finding that, yeah, their livers aren't good. Like they get to 40 years old and the doctor says, hey, you might need to cut back. And so, yeah, how would one, you know, what do you think the best way to deal with that is?
So I have been very entrenched in that world. And I think it's, you know, for me, coming from that experience, my husband and partner, he has been in alcohol production and manufacturing. He started a local brewery, and then now he's a partner and head of manufacturing for a local hard cider company. So they produce and manufacture cider throughout here in California. Now, when it comes to, I would say, like the culture and social experience of drinking, because it's so intertwined and integrated into our everyday lives, when someone is maybe starting to have a health concern where they can't consume alcohol anymore, let's just say it's affecting their sleep and they need to make some changes, they've had some liver issues, or even someone who's going through chemotherapy is now not able to drink alcohol and needs some sort of kind of alternative or way around engaging now in those social experiences. But when I was heavily engrossed in that world, it was like every festival, every happy hour, every football game, everything had alcohol. Yeah. And so someone who is in the position where, whether it is a choice where they're saying, hey, I want to actively cut back on alcohol, or whether it is maybe kind of a forced situation, right, where they're experiencing something in which someone's told them, like, you got to consider cutting back on alcohol because of the impact it's having on you, is you start to feel a little left out, maybe a little like outside of the circle. Maybe I don't know how to engage in these environments anymore because I would have a beer with everyone else, or we're all having wine with dinner. So it starts to kind of bring up that question of, you're not just talking about a product anymore. You're not just talking about a drink. You're talking about someone's life. You're talking about the way that they engage with other people. You're talking about the way that they engage with their partner and their spouse, the way that they engage with their coworkers, the way that they spend time with their friends. And so it permeates out into this larger experience. So I think for each individual, it's important first to understand why. What is the motivation of either their choice or the reason that they are now not going to drink? And then kind of understanding, what about that experience outside of the alcohol can you focus on? Is it the connection with others? Is it the conversation? Yeah. Is it the fact that you're watching the game? Is it food? You know, how can you center?
So how to normalize your life after getting rid of this major, what you thought was a major part of it, right?
Yeah,
it's almost like losing a friend or something, right? Like, I mean, it can be like a very like jarring thing.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think a lot of people talk about it enough, because at least in my circles, a lot of people talk about the positive aspects of not drinking. And that's like, you know, heading into how you feel.
My skin is so much clearer.
Yeah. All of those things. But the reality is that when you transition away from alcohol, especially in those initial stages, even the 6 months to a year after you stop drinking, it can feel really lonely, really isolating. And your body's starting to change in physiological ways. Your brain chemistry is starting to change in different ways. And like I said, you either have that like FOMO, fear of missing out. Oh, I can't go out with my friends because they're going to be drinking and I can't drink. So either I'm not going to go because I don't want to be put in that environment, or when I go, I'm feeling like I'm left out because I'm not engaging in the experience. So I think there's a lot more to address there. So when you understand the why, and then you start thinking about what else can I focus on? And then for us, that was having alternatives as well, as like planning and preparing alternatives that you can enjoy. Because for a lot of people, it's just the physical aspect of it. So you're holding the glass or the bottle. You've gotten and ordered the drink. There's a psychological study about networking where people are the most ready and willing to engage and talk to you right after they've gone to the bar, gotten their drink, and then found a place to like be. And that's the best place to be able to connect.
That's why it's called happy hour.
Yeah. And that's, again, there's so much beauty and fun to the craft of alcohol, to the experience of alcohol, to the social and cultural enterprise that is alcohol consumption. And so what we're trying to do is just kind of motivate and head into a space where we're looking at an inclusive environment socially and culturally that offers alternative options, in our case, functional options, that give you that same flavorful drink in a glass, adult, elevated, sophisticated experience, so you don't feel like you're left out, but you don't have to consume alcohol in order to engage in that same experience.
Yeah, and we can. I was going to talk about it later, but we can get into it now. Let's talk about To Be Honest and what you're doing with your business, because it is really exciting. It's something kind of fun and new. I think that these new sort of alternatives to alcohol, I personally, I'm on the record a lot as being not the biggest fan of NA beer. Like if I'm gonna drink beer, I'm gonna drink beer. But I have come around on the fact that NA beer is good for people who can't drink. I have some friends that can't drink and they love NA beer. They like to taste it again. They like to be part of the craft beer thing. They like to be able to order it at a bar. Sometimes it's on tap. It's just a really nice like gateway or like maybe bridge to that sobriety and to stay over there in Soberland. So why don't we talk about, to be honest, it's tobehonestbev.com, I think is what it is. And sort of your company, what the products are and how you sort of came up with those.
So when I stopped drinking, one of the things that I actually missed most was cocktails. So I had given up beer quite a long time ago because of the way that it impacted me. And I predominantly don't do gluten. It was just that I used to be like, I've taken connoisseur beer classes. My husband was a brewer. We went to festivals. I have consumed and enjoyed lots of different styles of beer across the spectrum.
You and me both, so again, sister.
Yeah. So I respect the creation. I respect the history of it. I respect what it means to engage in things and enjoy things at that level. But for me, from again, like a health perspective, from a body perspective, that just wasn't suiting me. So I gave that up many years ago at this point. And then wine is fantastic, but I never really got into like the connoisseur aspect of wine and sipping and the flavors. It's like I would drink some rosé, I would have a glass of red with steak, but it wasn't so much about like the quality of the product for me. But I loved cocktails. And so going out to a bar, ordering a cocktail, sitting there, being with people, watching the bartender make the drink, that is what I really loved. And then of course, in the home environment, mostly my husband makes the drinks for me, but we would love, finishing the day with a cocktail. And so when we started talking about
What's your cocktail choice real quick?
So I'm an egg white cocktail drinker. So I used to drink pisco sours.
Gin fizz, pisco sours.
Yes, gin fizz,
whiskey
pisco sour, Lady in White, like that world. I love. I don't know if it was because I liked a little protein too. Like it felt like it balanced out the sugar component.
It's pretty looking. It's shimmery. It's shiny. It looks nice.
It's fluffy too. Like
It's fluffy.
I love the texture.
Good mouth feel. Absolutely. Yeah. And some protein. Sure. Why not?
And I was a gin drinker. So I love tequila. I love gin. Vodka, not so much. I wasn't a big whiskey bourbon drinker. And I was not a fan of smoke. So in any case,
cut from the same cloth on that one. I do like mezcal though. But yeah, tequila, gin. Mm-hmm.
I think certain mezcals, I've found, there's a spectrum of mezcals. And so not all of them appeal to my palate. I do tend to have more of that like Band-Aid-y type response.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cheap scotches have that too.
Yeah.
Real bad. Johnny Walker Red, big old Band-Aid.
So the botanical, so the botanical spectrum in terms of cocktail consumption and drinks was kind of more the direction that I would typically go when consuming.
Okay.
And we originally, when we talked about a product, because my husband, again, like, he knows everything from beverage design, sourcing, manufacturing, and production to packaging, whether that's bottle or can. And so the actual creation of the product for us was pretty simple. A lot of brands and businesses go either the co-packer route or have to kind of figure that side out. But because of his experience, that was like a no-brainer. But we thought about going what you would call the RTD route, which is ready to drink. So that's anything in a can or bottle that you can either pour out or just consume as is. But the industry for that is very high volume, very competitive. You're in more of a grocery environment. There's just a lot of things from a business perspective that didn't feel like it suited us. And we weren't planning on getting a ton of capital up front. We just kind of wanted to test out the product, test the brand, and see if it was going to work. And so that's where we came to our essentially spirit alternative is what we call them. And so they're not necessarily designed to be exactly like your traditional or standard liquors, but they're meant to replace the liquor in your cocktail. So we created a gin inspired option, which is our inaugural style called Focus. So it's very juniper forward, botanical, herbaceous on its own.
Man.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Tasty. Yeah, it's delicious.
Thanks for sending a bottle over. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, you got to sample it.
I could be trying it right now.
We should have done that. Okay, so
tell me more about this amazing beverage you came up with.
So if you think of anything in kind of the gin profile, you've got your gin and tonic, anything that we talked about from an egg white perspective, or if you got like cucumber, anything fruity, floral, berry, mixes really, really well with this particular product. Cool. Now that's kind of on the flavor side. And we wanted something that really stood up because have you ever tried any non-alcoholic spirit alternatives?
I am less interested in them than I am in a beer. Yours sounds delicious, but no, I have not. I've not tried. I just can't wrap my brain around non-alcoholic whiskey. I cannot wrap my brain around it. But, so yeah, what is yours? So yours has that same sort of gin profile, the juniper profile, and adds a little bit more, right?
Yeah. So a lot of people, I've had quite a few spirit alternatives, and there's a few things in terms of like what we saw was the issue with spirit alternatives is one, you're essentially looking at very fancy distilled water in a bottle. And that's what you're
So this is what I was going to say. That was the thing I can't wrap my head around that's what it is. And this is why mocktails drive me batshit. And people, I'll be with people at bars and they'll order a mocktail and it'll be cranberry juice with like a lemon wedge stuffed inside of it. And they'll be happy to charge you $18 for it. Like no issue there. There's 60 cents worth of stuff in there and they'll charge you $18 for it. So this is my issue with mocktails. I haven't really talked about it on the show just because it enrages me, but, yes, one of the reasons why you're on the show is because I was really interested in your version of it because it does have some different aspects to it that other ones do. Sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
No, that was great. I think a lot of people share your sentiment when it comes to quote unquote mocktails on the menu. What you're looking at a lot of the times is just some sort of juice, soda replacement.
Ginger, apple. They just get the juicer and they put a bunch of crap in it and then they pour sparkling water in it and call it a mocktail. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So it depends on the location that you're going to. And of course, obviously you can do anything in your home environment, but when we're looking at like what people generally accept in the restaurant bar environment on the menu. So if you look at your mocktails, a lot of people go that route that we just talked about, right? Juice, soda, some sugary thing that is just not very good. Now, if you go like the next step and you're looking at like crafted cocktails on the menu, but that are non-alcoholic, whether that's 0 proof, alcohol free, free spirited, people use a lot of different terminology to refer to them.
Oh, I like free spirited. Okay.
Free spirited is kind of a cute one.
That's cute. Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah. But when you're building a cocktail, you have to think about the complexity of the flavor profile and the textured experience of what you're drinking. So for a lot of people, they don't get that. They just think, oh, if I just take out the alcohol, then it's a non-alcoholic cocktail, but it's not because you're missing what the alcohol provided in the complexity of the drink. So when you're thinking of like a great crafted cocktail, you want to think about how the flavor profiles add on top of one another and complement one another to give you that satisfied drinking experience on your palate throughout the duration of the drink. The problem with non-alcoholic spirits is that when you do have that like kind of fancy distilled water in a bottle without a lot of texture, usually one, it's really bland, which means it'll water down the drink. So even if you are using non-alcoholic spirits in your beverage, it will end up tasting or feeling too sweet or too watery. The other aspect of that is that a lot of them don't have great flavor profiles. So if you can get a flavor out of it, the way that they're trying to replicate or mimic the spirit profile just ends up not tasting very good. Whether they're trying to replicate the heat of ethanol and they're using capsaicin or some sort of pepper element to create a burning heat. And unless you're making a jalapeno margarita, that's like a no-go for me. So I don't like that. I don't want that.
How do you recreate the taste of vodka with non-alcohol?
So vodka,
vodka only tastes like burning.
Yes. Burning. It's true. Vodka, I think, is the most challenging. Our next SKU is actually going to be in the bourbon whiskey family, but it will be less smoky and more vanilla oaky. And so we're trying to figure out what that looks like for us. we do want something. So for us, we have two core components that we focus on in our product, which are flavor and function. So the other aspect of having a non-alcoholic spirit that is just distilled water means that you're not getting any real benefit or experience out of what you're consuming. So from a flavor perspective, we've designed our product to be more bittering on the palate. There's no sugar to it. There is some monk fruit sweetener, which is more for flavor profile balancing. But what it does in kind of creating that astringent feel on the palate is it balances out the sugar and the other flavors within the cocktail so that when you drink the cocktail and as you're drinking and consuming it, it still creates that sense of like, oh, this is an adult beverage. It doesn't necessarily taste exactly like a cocktail because we're not trying to replicate ethanol and that like heat burning sensation.
You didn't put any habaneros in it or anything like that?
No, definitely not. No, will not. Not
probably
happen.
a good move.
Yeah. But it's almost hard to describe until you experience it. And when it's mixed into a drink properly, most of the feedback we get is like, oh my God, that tastes like a cocktail. It feels like a cocktail. It drinks like a cocktail, which was our goal. The other part of that is like the textured experience. So we use ingredients in our product that create more of like a mouthfeel is what you would call it. So instead of drinking something that feels like water, you're drinking something that has a little bit of traction to it on your tongue that when, again, it's mixed up into a drink, it has more weight to it.
We're talking about sand. You're using sand.
Definitely not sand. It is not gritty.
Okay. Having trouble following you on the texture aspect here.
Well,
so you mean like, because the texture I most associate with booze is that sort of burning. Other than that, yeah, maybe there's definitely is a body component to like whiskey and tequila. I would say gin and vodka, probably not as much, but whiskey and tequila, I would say there is like a body component. So how do you sort of recreate that?
So there's almost, I would refer to it more as like viscousness. So if you think of like syrups, so if you've ever had syrup on your palate, it's going to be a little bit stickier and you can feel it more as opposed to if you were having even agave syrup is going to be less viscous. And then if you did even just a cane sugar based syrup, so hot water, cane sugar, that would have even less kind of like viscosity to it. So we use a vegetable glycerin in our product, and that allows it to have a bit more of a palatized feel. And then also our nano-emulsified CBD, which brings us to the function of the product, is also what creates that palate feel.
CBD drinks go one of two ways for me. Either they work really, really well and they make me feel totally fine for about an hour, or they give me the worst stomachache ever. So tell me you're using the kind that makes you feel really great.
It's the kind that makes you feel really great. We've never had any feedback or responses. There are things about CBD, either from a quantity perspective or a sourcing perspective, that can lead to some sort of digestive discomfort. So that might be your experience, unfortunately.
It's usually the cheap stuff, the very cheap stuff.
Yeah.
It's not your stuff.
Yeah, we have a wonderful, so especially if some people process on their own, but a lot of people source. And so we use a hemp processor ultimately who provides the nano-emulsified CBD to us. So they're the ones who are sourcing the hemp stock. They're doing the extractions. They're doing the nano-emulsification and the processing of the product. And then we get that in the finished liquid form. And then we move that as an ingredient into what it is that we produce. So, and
just to be clear, so if people are listening in Idaho, where most of my listeners are in Idaho, they can buy that here because it's CBD. There's no THC. There's no stuck in the couch. There's none of that stuff, right?
No. So there is a super clear distinction. And this is one of the educational components that's a bit more challenging about the product and the brand as a whole, is that a lot of folks still conflate CBD and THC. And I like to be very clear in the delineation of that. Also from a sourcing perspective, you can source either of those things from hemp or marijuana. And so we are a hemp derived CBD product, and we have a 0.0 THC content as well.
That means zero.
That means zero.
0.0. That's as much zero as you can get.
Yes.
Would you take that to the next number too, 0.00? Would you go as far as 0.00?
I I would go as far as 0.00. It's non-detectable, and we use one of the like highest rated labs as well. So
Awesome.
we have third-party lab testing, which every single hemp CBD quote unquote adulterated product would be, or functional product across that spectrum, whether it does have THC or not, because you can do hemp derived THC products. There's a lot of those on the market now, but as long as it's under 0.3% THC. So
what would you say the function feels like with your focus drink?
So everybody is so different and it is unique. And I like to preface that and help everyone understand that
it's just the two of us talking here, Michelle. It's just us.
It's just you and me. Yeah, behind the scenes. But I like everyone to be conscious from a consumer perspective, because there are a lot of products on the market that are advertised and marketed in a way that are designed to obviously get you to purchase them. And similarly to supplementation, what we're seeing in the non-alc and especially the functional space is integration of ingredients and products that don't necessarily have like a ton behind them and can have different effects on different people. So I just highly recommend everyone always take the time to either read the white papers, do a little due diligence, talk to your physicians, and understand what is in your products, even if it's just a canned soda water with some additional nootropics or adaptogens in it, is just being thoughtful about what that's going to do to your body and over especially time in terms of the quantity of consumption that you're using. So to your point is for most people, it's just us, just you and me.
It's just us. We're going to talk. We're going to talk like adults. We're going to talk about how this CBD makes us feel.
Yeah. So I'll talk about how I feel and how for most people. So I like to clearly delineate that THC is the thing that affects your consciousness. It is the intoxicant in the hemp and marijuana plants that give you what you would call your high, your buzz, your mood shift and change. So that's the thing
that kids like to say, it's what's in the reefer that makes the wacky tobacco wacky.
I've never heard that before.
That's how the kids talk.
Is that what they say? Oh gosh. So that's the thing that for most people can be more challenging or cause some type of concern. Now, CBD.
But we're not talking about that. That's not in this thing. It's 0.00 THC. We're talking about CBD.
Most people still think and conflate CBD with THC. So they get they think they're the same. And that's why I like to be super clear and distinguish that it is not the same. The other thing is
your CBD doesn't even come from weed. It comes from hemp, which is like rope.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it can produce rope, that's for sure. And clothing and lots of other things.
And clothing.
And concrete.
Well, I don't think hemp clothing is legal in Idaho. I'd have to look into that. But everything else, yes.
Interesting. That is very interesting. Joking. Oh, are you? Okay. I took that very seriously. I'm very naive. So
you shouldn't take anything I say very seriously. Little seriously, not very, never
minor seriousness.
Minor seriously. So let's just the last CBD drink I had, it was very nice. It made me feel a little distracted, but not at all high or not at all like I wasn't feeling stuck in the couch. I wasn't feeling any of those sort of things. All I did, it was like a little bit of like a happy juice sort of situation. So what was it like? What is it like for you with your product with Focus?
How I like to describe our product is that for most people, it's relaxation, stress relief, and calm. So whereas THC affects your consciousness and your mind, CBD affects your nervous system. So what's happening is your body's ability to kind of respond to the CBD. We all have different CBD receptors. And so the product or the ingredients sit in those receptors from a functional perspective, and they just affect the cascade of experience in your body. So that's one of the reasons it's used for epilepsy treatment, as well as pain management and other things of that capacity. Is it kind of slows down, mitigates, or stops that cascade effect in the nervous system and the body. So lots of people kind of experience that stress relief. And to your effect of what you said, for me, it feels like a quieting of the noise around me. So it's not changing my mental state, but it's like almost giving you this sense of presence and mindfulness and awareness. And so that's what I feel like it our product especially, that's what I feel, and that most of our customers experience.
And you know what, Michelle, when I have a cocktail, and Lord knows I've been known to have a cocktail, that is one of the, when you have just the one cocktail, if you're able to just have the one cocktail, that is actually a very apt description of what I feel like. Even if I have a big cocktail, like a martini, I like a martini, and gin, obviously. And that is kind of how I feel. Like when I want a gin martini, I want to be relaxed. I want the noise to go away. And I feel like looking over, not being able to taste yet your product, that is kind of the same sort of function, as you said, that you get from your product, right?
Yeah. So a lot of people quote unquote drink to take the edge off. That's an idiom, a phrase.
I don't think they quote unquote drink. I think they drink. They drink.
No quotes.
You don't have to put quotes around that.
Well, I think it's a lot of people, right?
Adjudicated.
Relax. End of the day. Transition. Like that kind of feel.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so same thing, similarly, one from the science and from the research studies, CBD has been demonstrated to help mitigate anxiety over time. And so because I was struggling with anxiety, it was one of the things that I felt like from a positive, beneficial, wellness-based functional capacity that I wanted to explore. And then also wanted that sense of like, so when you're just like, I just need a drink, whether you're stressed or it's been a long day or you that first sip of whatever you're having, it almost has a sense of like, So it's like part ritual and part as you're drinking, that's kind of what happens. And so we wanted with our product and with our brand and everything that we do to kind of signify that and almost replace, if not entirely, but at times when you don't want to drink, whether that's Monday through Friday or you're doing it for the month, or it's just kind of usually your go-to, or you drink every once in a while, however you can replace that ritual, that experience, that transition, and that sense of like, like that's what we were looking to do.
This is probably 35% of why you're on the show today, because I really wanted to talk about this product. I think it's a neat product, but not only do I want to talk about, and we've talked about the product pretty good. I mean, we've got about 12 minutes or so on it, and it tastes kind of like gin, right? It kind of has a gin-ish.
Yeah, very juniper forward, very botanical.
Okay, so it is juniper forward. What kind of gin do you think it tastes most like, if you could pick one?
It was inspired by, you mean like a brand?
Yeah.
Or I couldn't say. I honestly haven't had anything to drink in a long time. No, I just couldn't. I couldn't say, like, I couldn't give you an accurate. I could ask my husband, and he could probably give. So
it was inspired by like a big botanical juniper-y, like an English gin. Like it sounds like
more like a London dry. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice. That was kind of what the inspiration was.
A couple questions about the business itself. Your business your company, it's a corp, right? Is a corp. Your company is called
we're technically an LLC. So we do business as To Be Honest Beverage Company. So we're a separate LLC and we DBA.
But with limited liability. So it's called To Be Honest Beverage Company. To be honest, how is it with that name that you make non-alcoholic drinks? Because everyone knows the best way to get to honesty is a drink, right?
Sometimes alcohol makes you too honest. So the inspiration behind the name, so technically my husband actually named the brand, and the inspiration behind it is that, people, it's so funny because people feel like that phrase does different things, where if people feel like you have to preface with, to be honest, that you've been like lying the rest of the time or something. I don't know, apparently. But we typically use that phrase when we're about to say something that maybe we're like, it's a sensitive topic, it's uncomfortable, maybe it's not great. Like, to be honest, those pants don't look actually very good on you at all. To be honest, like,
here's the thing.
Here's the thing. Let me lay it down for you. So that's the thing. But to be honest is, when I stopped drinking, it was more about just getting honest about my experience and about my choices. And again, the intentionality and the mindfulness of consumption. And so it's because alcohol is so well integrated into our lives, it brings up the question is like, if you were going to be honest with yourself and to be honest about your circumstances, your choices, your environment, your situation, whatever that looks like, is alcohol serving you in this moment or not? And that was really the inspiration behind it overall.
And whoever's got the cue cards up behind you is doing a fantastic job. That was perfect. What an amazing reason for it. I love that. I love the whole thing about your name. I think it's funny that you took sort of a phrase that maybe would otherwise have sort of a negative connotation, and you turn it around and made it sort of inward and you've created like this brand now that's sort of, so you call this brand, it's purpose driven. And I think this is interesting. We're seeing a lot of this now. Seeing a lot of purpose driven brands, a lot of people kind of mixing their business with what they want to do sort of in the real world and having these sort of outside goals. So can you please explain to us slowly, how you navigate this business making profits in this LLC with staying true to your purpose?
Slowly.
Be very slow.
Be very slow. So from a business perspective, I have done other things before, predominantly in the service-based realm. I used to teach and coach, and so I had clients and digital products and experiences, workshops, different things of that nature. And I feel like as a business owner and I guess entrepreneur, if you're thinking about it that way, is that I feel like you have to have some type of inspiration, why, motivator, passion, and interest behind what it is that you're doing. Now, there are lots of business models out there and very successful businesses and brands that were started and inspired by nothing that made either the founder, the creator, the original employees motivated or excited to a certain degree. But usually there has to be some type of inspiration or driver. And so I think we're in a space in our time where the opportunity is such a low barrier to entry. We're in a time and space in which access to marketing tools, to customers has never been so accessible before. And
some of us are trying to run marketing companies over here.
Oh yeah, is that the thing?
Sometimes. not so much anymore. But no, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. So with that, we're also at a time, and this is something I think about more on the philosophical side of life, is that we're at a time where everything is accessible to us. And we don't have a lot of what I would call like survival things that we need to take care of. Now, granted, you and I are probably in very privileged situations, and I'm not speaking to everyone, but likely anybody who's listening to a podcast has enough of privilege so that they're in a circumstance where all of their base needs are probably met just fine. But we don't have to cook for ourselves anymore. If we don't want, we don't have to clean for ourselves. We don't have to find food. We don't have to worry about shelter. We don't have to do a lot of anything. There's so much of our lives that are catered to. And because of that, what I've found to be the case is that people are creating, developing, and putting themselves out there in a way that doesn't actually serve as much of a function anymore. And with that low barrier to entry, with the space in which we have so many people questioning, what am I doing? What am I here to do? Why am I here? Like, what is that underlying conversation that we each have with ourselves in order to bring either a career or a business or maybe a family to fruition? Is that it's a deeper question that we all are considering of what are we doing in this world? And that's why I think that the founder-led brands, the more purpose-driven brands, the mission-driven companies are developing more now than ever before, because we don't have to worry so much about checking off the boxes just to make sure that we're cared for, or again, our base needs are met. So for me, as I've evolved in my career, my business, and what I want to do, I have more interest in having something that I care deeply about come to the world and come to fruition than just making money, than just creating, I don't know, I can't even think of an example, but something so far outside of my scope of interest that that's a huge, motivator and reason behind this. Now, then it just takes the understanding of business model and profitability and understanding of what it is that you're doing to run and launch a business. I always tell people that my job is literally learning to do things that I've never done before and just doing them. And so I think if you go into business ownership and entrepreneurship with that mentality, that's just like everything is simple. People ask me, that's it, right? But people ask me a lot in terms of like challenges, like what have been the challenges? And yes, we face regulatory challenges. Yes, we face sourcing challenges. Yes, of course, there's team stuff. Yes, marketing. Yes, all of the pieces. But the
shipping
biggest,
free bottles of product out to people so they can try it.
Yeah, taking on the expense of being on people's podcasts and the time investment. No, but really, ultimately, the challenge is more so aligning what you want to do in the world and ensuring that you're showing up in that way. It's like all of the pieces you can figure out, like all the stuff is easy when you look at it that way. But yeah, hopefully that
totally makes sense. No, it's awesome. And it was just slow enough to where I was able to keep up, which is important because as the host, I have to know what you're talking about. And I think, Michelle, it's been really nice talking to you. I want to hit just a couple more things and then I will let you get back to what appears to be a very beautiful evening out there, wherever it is you live. And you talk about this idea of living intentionally on your website. I feel like I live too intentionally. Too much intention, not enough non-intention, not enough attention either. What does this idea mean of living intentionally? How did you come up with it? And how can other people sort of utilize this sort of idea in their daily lives?
A lot of what we've talked about so far centers around choice and centers around awareness of where you are in your life. And so drinking it's technically a small aspect of what it is you're here to do or doing in the world, but it is an important aspect. And so we're using a product as kind of a medium of understanding for a more lifestyle change, shift, awareness, opportunity with our consumers, with the audience that we're building, with what we're here to do as a business and brand in the world. And so from an intentional perspective, I always think and believe that assessment is usually the first step, other than obviously identifying and acknowledging that you want to be able to actually shift and change something. But a lot of people always kind of think
assessment even comes before that, though. I think you have to assess what's going on with yourself. Yeah,
you can't make any change. But if you're just living your life,
and you have to do it honestly, right? You have to be honest about it.
I mean, to be honest, you really have to consider what it is that's happening in your life. So
I see what you did.
So yeah, do you like that?
Yeah. I did. I liked it a lot. Callbacks and puns will get you invited back every time.
So we have to, if we're recognizing that there's something in our lives that we want to change, like if you're peachy keen and you just love what you're doing, cool, that's great. But if you recognize or identify, or there's some sort of inkling that like, I want something different in my life, I don't know exactly what that is, or maybe this isn't working out for me, or this thing is just kind of off, you have to then assess. So coming from the health and fitness realm, I did personal training and coaching and working with people to figure out how they reach their goals. Because a lot of times we have these wants, we have these desires of what we're working toward, but we cannot work toward them. We cannot take the action steps if we don't first understand where we are. It's like GPS. It's like, yes, you have to have a destination, but if your locator doesn't know where you are, then they'll never be able to direct you to where you're going. So if you are able to then assess where you are, getting honest, thinking through, is this what I want? From a lifestyle perspective, I think there's like 9 pillars, but if you look at like your career and your finances and your physical health and your relationship health and your family and your social and all of these things in your life, what is it about those set of circumstances is not as you want it to be?
Yeah.
So doing that first is just starting to get intentional. It's just like the initial stage of what it takes to live a more meaningful, mindful, intentional life, because you've got to, again, identify where you are. And then, of course, you move into the experience of, okay, well, then if I have a goal, I want to make this shift, I want to make this change, I want to work towards this desire, this want, then I can figure out the steps along the way. And that all just takes intentionality, which is mindfulness, which is presence, which is attention to the now, what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're not doing, your environment, your energy, your resources, where you're placing your priorities, all of that comes into play. So the thing that I typically suggest for people in creating intentionality in their lives is starting with that assessment and figuring out where you are now and how you can start to shift and make changes. Because honestly, especially when it came to health and when I would coach, is like the things that people want are super, super simple. And they're actually really, really easy. Like you don't have to get complicated to make big changes in your life. But without knowing where you are and being able to make those shifts from that place, you're never going to go anywhere. Nothing's ever going to happen. So I think intentionality starts with that.
Perfect. Love it. Sounds like words to live by. Everybody out there, get intentional. You got to be honest. You got to assess, and then you got to put it in a plan of action. And so why don't we just real quick give your company a plug? Tell us what you have coming up. Tell us about what's going on now, and we'll go on our merry way here, Michelle.
Yeah, well, I always like to offer, if you have any questions, especially anything that came up today, because our product is of a variety that sometimes it depends on the person, it depends on the circumstance. If you have any follow-up questions, you can always reach out to us and find us on any platform, which is To Be Honest Bev. It's TOBE Honest, and Bev is in beverage. And then that's the same for our website. So we have a chat box on our website. You can reach me and ask me follow-up questions you need.
We will link to all of that in the show notes as well. So you can click it right there. It'll say, reach out to Michelle in big old letters.
Love it. Yeah. Please feel free to. It is a topic that I really believe in, like consumer education and understanding. And then of course we want to inspire and motivate to just have alternative options. But even when it comes to alcohol, is enjoy. Like you should be enjoying the experience, savoring, what's happening on your palate, and allowing yourself to, whether it's an alternative or alcohol or anything else, to have that integrated into your life in a way that suits you, in a way that you desire and want.
Yeah. And okay, so we could go to Be Honest Bev, tobehonestbev.com. You have the Focus Premium Hemp Infused gin, what is it called? Premium Hemp Infused Non-Alcoholic Spirit Alternative. That's for sale on that website right now. And you have a whiskey that will be coming out at some point.
Yes, so TBD on the date and the timeline. It's likely 2026. We want to focus on this initial and one SKU to start. So that's the only thing that you can purchase on the website. You can purchase it in multiple quantities. I do like to encourage people. We don't offer discounts, but you can join our loyalty program. And so you can rack up points and apply that to your purchase, which is a lot of our repeat customers enjoy that.
And then real quick, just because we mentioned him so much, give us a plug for the husband. What's your cidery called?
It's called Slow Cider Company. So San Luis Obispo Cider Company. It's not distributed outside of California, unfortunately. So you're not going to be able to get it in Idaho. But if you do visit the Central Coast or places within California, you can look up Slow Cider. And he does a phenomenal job across the board. I don't remember exactly how many different flavors he has, but he has a ton of different options in the tasting room, and they can and distribute.
Nice.
And it's super clean. It's not your traditional ciders that are a little bit more fermented, spunky, funky, like in that category. They're very kind of like new age, a lot cleaner. A lot cleaner and lots of different flavors. So yeah.
All right. Well, good. We just had a cider fest here not too long ago. So maybe next year he could come out and bring some of that. Cider.
Actually, that would be fantastic. I'll bring it up. He goes to CiderCon every year, which is a cider convention. So he's connected with a lot of cideries across the nation.
A lot of overalls and hats at that con, I would imagine. Cider con.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Michelle Houston. Thank you so much for being on the pod today. I really appreciate it. And we're going to be right back with the Boise Beer Buddy community calendar. We'll see right after this. Holiday season is here, and what better way to recover after a Black Friday brawl than with a beer? I'll tell you a better way. What if that beer was cheaper? That's the beauty of a Boise Beer Buddies card. One card gives you multiple ways to save money at bars, restaurants, breweries, wineries, homebrew supply stores, and more, all throughout Idaho. Now your solo Beer Buddies card is creating beef with your best drinking buddy? Oh, that can't happen. I have the answer for that as well. Go to BoiseBeerBuddies.com, use my promo code BOOZEPOD at checkout, and get a free card when you purchase yours. That's a red hot BOGO from Boise Beer Buddies and the Idaho Booze Podcast. Promo code BOOZEPOD at BoiseBeerBuddies.com. Be a buddy. Get your Boise Beer Buddies card today. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. See, I told you she was awesome. God, Michelle, thank you so much for coming on the show. She was amazing. I really enjoyed getting to know her and meeting her and talking to her and just hanging out with her. She was a good hang. Good hang, Michelle. Thank you so much for coming on the show. So what's going on? The Boise Beer Buddies community calendar brought to us by Boise Beer Buddies. Be a buddy. Get a Boise Beer Buddies card today. Use my promo code BOOZEPOD. Get 2 for 1. Get a BOGO on that Beer Buddy card. Get one for you, one for your best good friend, and get on out there and start saving money with your Boise Beer Buddies card today. Boise Beer Buddies, be a buddy. Go to BoiseBeerBuddies.com and get yourself a Boise Beer Buddies card. What's going on this week? Let's check it out. Looks like Barbarian, our friends at Barbarian, released a quad. Oof. Imagine what the alcohol level is in that thing. Their normal beers are pretty good. That quad's got to be something special. So go check that out at both Barbarian Brewings. Let's see what else is going on. Tonight, 4 p.m. to close. It's the 14th anniversary party at Sawtooth. This is in Ketchum. Paul, congrats, buddy. Got to come on the show. We need to get Paul on the show. Come on the show already. 4 p.m. to close in Ketchum. Get out there and check out 14 years already. Man, it's flown by. I think I've known Paul that entire time. Pretty sure I have. 7 o'clock, Brown Beard Barrel House, Too Slim and the Blues Saviors, plus Raven, A Dark Arrival. That's at 7 o'clock tonight at Brown Beard in Garden City. You can get tickets online there at, I assume, well, we can link to it in the show notes. Saturday, Dandelion is going to be open. They have a van at Vogel Farms in Melba. If you're in Owyhee County, that's going to be at noon at Vogel Farms, noon to 4. Go check out Dandelion. I've been wanting to go check them out. I actually had a little conversation with one Greg Barnes this week about Dandelion. I'm going to go check that out sometime. Head on out to beautiful Owyhee County. Ooh, gorgeous out there. 12 o'clock on Saturday, 2-year anniversary party at Proletariat Wine Company. Congrats, Proletariat. Nice folks over there. 1 p.m. Barrel Aged Social at Sockeye Brewing. Oh, this is cool. Sockeye, why didn't you come on and talk about this? 1 to 4 p.m. Barrel Aged Social at Sockeye. That sounds like a good time. Hooligans at 2 p.m. is going to have a paint party. Go check that out. This is very exciting at Veer Wine Project. Our friend Will, who is going to be on the show very soon. Really excited to see him again. Haven't seen him in a while. 2 to 8 p.m. They're doing a mulled wine cook-off. This is this is classic Will. Will is challenging the rest of his staff to beat him in a mulled wine cook-off. He's making a mulled wine. All of his staff members, each of them is making a mulled wine. God, it's tough to say these things. And the winner, I don't know what the winner wins, but I assume it's some type of bragging rights and some type of dance that Will's going to do. I assume that'll be a lot of fun. 2 to 8 p.m. at Veer. Awesome spot too. God, I love that place. Let's see, 3 p.m. to close. 10-year anniversary celebration at Powder House. Hey, congrats, Powder House. 10 years. Not bad. That's going to be 3 o'clock to close. And yeah, so that's on Saturday. Go check out Powder House. Good for you, boys.
Nice work. The party continues at Sawtooth in Haley on Saturday, 4 p.m. to close for that 14th anniversary party. And then Parcero Wine, there's a book club discussion. I'm not sure you're invited to that, but if you are, great. That's 6 to 8 p.m. 7 to 9:30 Silver Mountain Season Pass pickup at Vantage Point Brewing up in CDA. We got some CDA news at Vantage Point. Ooh, great beers over there too. Love that Vantage Point. And let's see what else is going on. Beer bread. Oh, we got a homebrew thing going on at Brewers Haven on Sunday, November 9th. And Old Speak, there's going to be a reading and conversation. Waiting for my invite. My reading is okay. Conversation, much better. So yeah, lots going on. And then we have some Veterans Day stuff going on at Bear Island on Tuesday, November 11th on Veterans Day. Every veteran out there, all of you beautiful veterans, get a free pint. That's, what you got? Army, Navy. You got them. Well, I guess Marines is kind of the Navy, right? Air Force. Oh, and most importantly, the Coast Guard. You got the Coast Guard there. All those vets from the Coast Guard. Go get your free pint at Bear Island. We got Pray for Snow already happening. Jeez, this is going to be at Voodoo Brewing Company, 6 to 9 p.m. on Tuesday. And, here's something you don't want to miss. If you're a big wine guy or lady, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. guided wine tasting of Devil's Bedstead at House of Wine. I got to think Greg Koenig's going to be there. Ooh, you should check that out. If you like cab, you should go to that. His cab is fantastic. Devil's Bedstead. He's making some really good stuff, Greg. Man, awesome. Cool. So that's the Boise Beer Buddies community calendar. I want to thank Boise Beer Buddies so much. I want to thank Treasure Valley Chevron. I want to thank WarrenReserve.com. Holiday bundles are out. Get 20% off with my promo code BLACK25. Also, I have hats for sale. It's Make IPA Cooligan hats. You can get link to that in the show notes. I think it's that fourth wall, something like that. I think if you type in Make IPA Cooligan hat into Google, it'll come up. Maybe. We'll see. And that's about it. So thanks a lot to Michelle Houston for being on the show today. Really appreciate it. Thanks to all your listeners out there. I really appreciate you all. Rate and review us on YouTube's, on Apple Pods, and wherever else you find us. Spotify, Substack. If you haven't subscribed yet on Substack, why don't you throw me a subscription? I think that'd be awfully nice. And for the rest of you out there just listening, we're here every week for the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm Steve Kuntz. Good day and good drinking, everyone.